Alright, what is up everybody, and welcome to my third episodes of my new drumming video series, Drumming 101. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about one of the most basic, fundamental, and one of the most important things, not only in this activity, but in music in general, music theory. Now, before we begin, I just want to make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tlalolin Ramirez, and I like to make different kind of videos of different styles. So if this is something of your interest, I will be doing more videos like these in the future. So make sure you subscribe and you follow along with that bell notification button to make sure you're up to date with the videos that I post. Now, music is so theoretical that you can literally take classes in college to major and specify your knowledge in music theory. With that being said, once you start getting to the point where you're writing and composing your own pieces, there are absolutely no rules that tells you what you can or cannot do when creating music. Music is basically an art, and the way you express it and the way you want to write it or the way you want to portray it is all the way up to you. But in this video, I'm basically going to be just teaching you guys the basic rhythms on how to write them, how to read them, and how they're created. Not really going to go into notes or... Alright, to start everything off, I'm going to be teaching you guys about tempo. Tempo is the speed at which the music is taken at, and the composer or the writer of the music chooses how fast or slow he wants their piece to be taken at, and he does that by writing the tempo at the top of the music. Now, the way tempo is created is you click a certain amount of times within a single minute, and the amount of times that you clicked or clapped or whatever the case may be within that minute is the number of beats per minute. So if you click 100 times, evenly spaced out between each click, within 1 minute, you are clicking at a rate of 100 beats per minute. Now, us human beings, as very intelligent people, decided to create either physical object or decided to create a physical or electronical thing that holds that tempo for us. So personally, I only use the electronic way. You can go to the App Store or whatever and look up metronome, and basically you have the option to choose how fast or how slow you want your tempo to be. And for example, if I wanted to give that 100 clicks a minute example, it would basically sound this fast. So that right there is clicking at a rate of 100 beats for every single minute. So if you were to put a stopwatch on and make it run for a minute and count for every single time this has been clicked, it would click a total of 100 times. Pretty self-explanatory, very simple, and that allows the composer or music writer to choose how fast he wants his or her piece to be taken at. So now that we finished talking about the tempo and the speed of the music, let's start talking about the actual notes and rhythms. So at the beginning of each music piece, the composer tells you what note value gets the metronome beat. So for example, at the top of the piece of music, a composer writer would write something like this. He would give you a note or a specific value, and he will tell you that that is equal to whatever he will tell you whatever note value gets the click of the metronome. So in this case, if you were to click 100 beats per minute along with the metronome, you would be clicking at what we defined as being the quarter note. However, like I said, there are absolutely no rules that tell you what you can or cannot do in music. So this is the most common form. Typically the metronome does get the quarter note beat or the quarter note feel. With that being said, you can have this as an 8th note at being 100 beats per minute. Or you can have this as a 16th note being 100 beats per minute. It makes the tempo that much more slow, but if you want to be that creative or that different from the typical music writing composers, then there's nothing that says you cannot do this. Another common metronome note value is also the dotted quarter note, and that is done for triplet feel music. When you want every single 3 notes or 3 eighth notes to be the quarter note feel or the metronome feel, then you would do this as every single 3 eighth notes to have the metronome feel, and I'll explain that more in the future. So like I said earlier, the notes and the rhythms are created by dividing up the spaces of the metronome click. So if we were to have an example of being at 100 beats per minute and we lay out 4 quarter notes, if we were to play these 4 notes in real life, we would basically just be clicking along with the metronome. So here's a metronome at 100 beats per minute, and this is exactly what this means. So it just means you click along with the metronome for 4 times. Now if we wanted to have a different rhythm and click twice as fast in between each note, we can divide these up into what we call eighth notes. And literally the quarter note is still there on every single other note, but you're basically playing or clicking twice as fast as what the metronome is. So for every single click that we have, these are the 4, you would be playing 2 for every single one. So basically what the sounds of the metronome would be like this. And so basically you can continue going on like this forever. You can have 16th notes, you can have 32nd notes, 64th notes, 128th notes, and the list goes on and on forever. You can theoretically divide up the spacing between each note as many times as you'd like. Cool, so now that you know that you can divide up and play the notes twice as fast as a metronome would, you can also go the other way and play twice as slow as a metronome. So you'll be basically taking out every single other beat and playing with the metronome every single other click. Now we call that a half note. You play half the times the metronome clicks. So now that you guys understand the concepts of how to create rhythms, either by clicking twice as fast as the metronome or twice as slow as the metronome, you can divide up the spaces between 3s and play triplets. You can divide them up in 5s and play 5-lets. Between 9s to have 9-lets, and the list goes on. You can divide up the click of the metronome however you desire to create your own piece of music, and that's exactly how rhythms are made. Cool, so now that you guys understand the concept of notes and rhythms and filling up space with notes, you can also fill up space with negative notes, or what we like to call as rests. And rests are basically exactly what it sounds like. You rest. So for example, every single note value has the same value in rest, and basically composers and writers put that in so you can fill up space with no notes at all and hear nothing. So you have a quarter note and you have a quarter note rest. You have an eighth note and you have an eighth note rest. You have a 16th note, you have a 16th note rest. And the list goes on and on for the different rests that have the same value as the positive filler notes. Cool, so the next thing on the list is telling you guys how music is divided up. So we divide up music in what we call a measure. So music has as many measures as the composer would like to have it, and it's just divided up by lines like that. And as a writer or composer, it's their job to fill up these measures with either rest or notes. So basically, you think of it as an empty box that has to be filled in with stuff or empty stuff to fill up the entire measure. And you do this as many times as you'd like, as many times as the whole piece or music needs. So how much stuff are we allowed to put in one single measure? Now that is determined by what we call a time signature. The time signature is put at the beginning of the music and tells you how many notes or how many rests are allowed to fit within one single measure. Now the way time signature is formed is basically in a fraction kind of structure, and the top note tells you how many notes you're allowed to have, and the bottom number tells you how much of the note value is set for every single numerator. So basically, the most common time signature is 4/4, and what this means is that for every single measure inside of that piece of music, there will be a total of 4 quarter notes filled up with either notes or rest to fill up that has to be filled up within that measure. Other common signatures consist of things like 6/8, or any kind of bottom eighth note value in that case. 9/8 is also common, 7/8, 12/8. And what this means is that for every single measure in that piece that has a time signature of 9/8, for example, there will be a total of 9/8 notes within each measure that has to be in the measure to be filled up. One of the most complicated time signatures that I've seen personally in my drumming career is BD's 11, which is in 11/16. And what that means is that for every single measure, there will be a total of 11 16th notes to be filled up. Really hard warm up to learn, really complicated time signature, especially to play with the Met. But yeah, that basically just means that when you're writing music, there are absolutely no rules that tell you what you can or cannot do. There's no rules that say you cannot have 11/16. So the writer for 11, the warm-up BD 11, decided to write it in 11/16. The most common one is 4/4, like I said, but you can have 6/8, 9/8, 12/8. You can have 5/4 is another common one. You can have 7/4, which is 7 quarter notes within each measure, and so on and so forth. Great, so now that we've covered the concepts of tempo, BPM, time signatures, measures, and just the entire basis of music theory, rhythms, and notes, let's start reading and writing music, which will be done in the next episode. So yeah, I'm gonna conclude everything for today, you guys. The next episode is gonna be part 2 of music theory. I didn't wanna just jam every single thing about music theory in this video. So there's gonna be a part 2, more advanced intermediate video. I also want to mention one more thing before I leave. I am officially making my own clothing line. It's called Moat, and I'm repping it right now. If you want to get your own shirts, go to the website done right here, or in the link in the description below. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to hit that bell so you guys know when my next videos are gonna be coming up. So make sure you stay in tune with that. But yeah, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys for the next one, and peace out.